I'm going to show you how you can change the speed of the UFO test and why should you care. This is awesome. And full credit to this video goes to Beta Cook Alpha. He explained me how to do it. So I'm gonna show you and what you can do with that. It is absolutely amazing. I'm like testing and verifying the numbers that I got, and I'm correct. All the numbers I've been giving you, so the percentage of OLED Motion Pro high, everything seems to be on point. So this is absolutely amazing. So you can now change the speed of the test to have 1 pixel per frame, 2 pixels per frame, 3, 4, 5, anything. And it has to be exact numbers. Why? I'm still studying that, but I also got good feedback from Joseph Ripon. He's telling me that the problem is, and he did another comment. The problem is that the pixels per frame, it has to be round up to an integer number of pixels per frame. So you cannot have 1.5 pixels per frame. And he was explaining that the problem is that it might look jittery. It might look jumpy. So I still have to study that. I also have good feedback here from Bruno Moraes. He explains. He told me about the Smooth Frog software, which I download, but I still haven't tried extensively, and that allows you to change the speed of the test to have non-integer pixels per frame values. So I can see that problem because I don't see it because I've never seen it. So awesome. And I also got feedback from my previous video from a C2 owner confirming that the BFI on the C2 at 60 Hz, it seems to be exactly 50% window size. So it is reducing the persistence in half, or it is improving the motion clarity 2x. It is doubling the motion clarity on the C2. Okay, so let me show you how to do this and how you can use it and the numbers that you can utilize. So the best numbers and how to calculate them is very easy. So we just right click here in pixels per second. We right click and then we click inspect. Let me close this so you see that this happens. So we right click here, we click inspect, and then we get this thing. And here we scroll down to select title PPS, which is pixels per second, ID, PPS, class, setting, data. So it is this one. So you click here on the 3 dots, edit as HTML, and then you see all the options here. Again, edit as HTML, and we see all the options here, 120, 120. So what you have to do is to change any. So we can change these super high speed values because they are completely unusable. Like for these displays, you need a very, very low persistence display like a VR headset to really appreciate those higher speeds. So what we do here is I'm gonna tell you how to calculate the values, which is very, very easy. So basically, what we want is to have all the options. So at 60 Hz, I want 1 pixel per frame, for example. And how can I get that? I need the speed to be 60 pixels per second. And when you open the UFO test, that option is just not available. Okay, and I am interested in seeing that option because that is the reference for how good the image is going to look if you have a 60 Hz display. Okay, so if you have a 60 Hz display, for example, and you open the UFO test, you change the speed to 60 pixels per second, that is 1 pixel per frame, that is supposed to look absolutely perfect. What if it doesn't? Then the display does not have a good gray to gray and other motion blur properties that are a factor there. So if you have a 60 Hz display, let's say it's a crappy LCD office display, maybe you try 60 pixels per second and it still looks blurry. So that's a super crappy LCD that is not the refresh rate. So it's not compliant with the refresh rate because the gray to gray is just horrendous. I don't know if that exists, but maybe. So it is important to have all the options: 1 pixel per frame, 2 pixels per frame, 3, and so on. So how can you calculate that? Very easy. You just open the calculator and you have 60 FPS at 60 hertz. You have 60 FPS, and you multiply that for the amount of pixels per frame you have. You want. If you want 1, then the speed is 60 pixels per second, 2, 120. You want 3, you just multiply 6 by 3, that's 90. That's 180. That's it. 4, and so on. 240. So you have the 240 option, but you do not have the 180 option. Okay? So what you do is you come here, and this is all the speeds that I created. You can just copy the speeds because this is what is most relevant. So just copy the speeds that I have here. So you can have a different organization, of course. Maybe you can have them in order. So what I created was a 60 speed, then a 180. So you have to type in the values in both ends. 180, then 300, 360, 600, and 840. Those are all the relevant values to have at 60 hertz and also at 120 hertz to have 1 pixel per frame, 2 pixels per frame, 3, 4, 5. Okay? That's it. So now I have all the options. So by having these options, for example, at 60 hertz, what I can do here is I can change the speed of the test to 180 pixels per second. Okay? So at 180 pixels per second, I use OLED Motion Pro High, and I see that I am getting less than 2 pixels of motion blur. Okay? Clearly. Not a doubt on my mind, but it is not perfect. It is not 1 pixel of motion blur. So my calculations are for sure correct. So basically, we have the motion clarity we have on the LG C1 using OLED Motion Pro High at 60 hertz is between 120 hertz and 180 hertz. And I would say it is closer to 180 hertz. Is it? Let me calculate it. So basically 180. So let me calculate it here. So what I said is that OLED Motion Pro High is 38% window size. So we are going to find out how much is 38% of 16.6 milliseconds, which is the persistence of a 60 hertz display. And we just calculate that, and we divide that by 100 here. So we have 6.3 milliseconds, and this is an approximation. Okay, so then we divide 1 by 6.3, and we get 158. So OLED Motion Pro High at 60 hertz on the LG C1 is supposed to look in movement like a 158 hertz OLED display, and that's what I see. So it is not 180. It is almost there, but it's not 180. But it is closer. Let me get that number. So it is closer. If I subtract 180, have 21. So yeah, it is closer to 180 than to 120. Okay, it's only missing 21 hertz basically. That's very, very close, but it is not 180. And the reason why I know for sure it is not 180 is because at 3 pixels per frame I see a difference between 120 and 180. The difference is very, very small, but the pupils of the alien, they get a little bit blurry. A little bit. Like I see them at 120 pixels per second. It is absolutely perfect. If I increase the speed to 180, so from 2 pixels per frame to 3 pixels per frame, and I look at the alien eyes, they become a little bit blurry. imperceptible, like very, very difficult. I mean, it is perceptible. I can see it, but it is very, very difficult to notice. So it is awesome to have this option. And we don't have that option, and we do not have the 60 option. So when I don't use black frame insertion, I can still see the alien and it is perfectly visible. Of course, remember that to do this test, you need to have 100% scaling on the display settings, and you need to have 100% zoom on the browser. Okay, so I'm going to turn off here Motion Pro. Oh, and it still looks perfect. So it's a 60 pixels per second. So the UFO test looks perfect at 60 pixels per second because I have 1 pixel per frame. So sample and hold, 60 hertz display at this speed, they are going to look, they should look perfect if they don't have other limitations. Okay, and the OLED gray to gray is so good, and the responsiveness is so good that the OLED follows the UFO, the Blurbuster's law closely. So it looks perfect. And when I move at 180, for example, if I compare this, because this is the reference, if I compare this picture, and I'm looking at the alien eyes, and I compare this picture with OLED Motion Pro High moving at 180, this looks a little bit blurry, the alien eyes, but it's very, very small difference. So what that means is that my calculations are right on the money, right on the money. So awesome. And now, of course, we can also test 1, 2, 3 pixels per frame at 120 because I created this this other speed. So for example, if I change the resolution of the display, I have now 60 hertz. I'm gonna change it to 120, hit apply. Now I come here to the UFO test, and I have at 120, I have 1 pixel per frame. If I want 2 pixels per frame, I change it to 180. If I want 3, I change it to 300 pixels per second. If I want 4, I do 480. If I want 5, I do 600. If I want 6, I do 720. If I want 7, 840. So you see, I have all the options that I want. And if you want a different option that is not there, then all you need to do is to multiply the amount of pixels per second you want for the frame rate. So you have 120 frames, and you let's say you want 7 pixels per frame. You multiply that by 7, and you get 840. Okay, why? Because you have 120 frames in 1 second. Okay, and you are multiplying that for pixels per frame. Okay, so frame and frame, it goes, and then you have pixels per second. So multiplying frames per second by pixels per frame, you have frame here and here, so you cancel the frame and you're left with pixels per second. That's why. So that's the speed in pixels per second. That's it. So let me know if you have any questions. Let me see if I have other feedback, because I got good, very, very good feedback. I have to explore that smooth frog more. I opened it quickly and I couldn't see how to change the pixels, the speed. I was able to change the frame rate, but not the speed. I have to explore and see if there is any keys that I have to press to get those options. If you know, let me know, because they don't explain how to get all the options. I was not able to change the speed, basically. I have to explore that more. But I got very, very good feedback here. So the only thing that I am missing, and I would like confirmation. I've seen it on the Blurbusters forums that the LG CX at 60 has 25% window size. So it's basically 4 milliseconds of persistence. but I would like confirmation from one of you. If you have an LG CX, please use OLED Motion Pro High at 60 Hz, open the UFO test, and change the speed to 240. So you have 2 pixels per frame. And that should look perfect. No, I'm sorry, you have 4 pixels per frame. Okay, 4 pixels per frame at 60 Hz. I'm at 120, that's why I made that mistake. So at 60 Hz, OLED Motion Pro High on the LG CX or GX should look perfect. And if that's the case, so if that looks exactly the same as 120 sample and hold, then the CX has 120 FPS, 120 Hz sample and hold. If that looks the same, so 60 Hz, OLED Motion Pro High, 240 pixels per second. If that looks the same, then the CX has 25% window size, or we can say it is improving the motion clarity in 4x. Okay, 4x. That's a big difference. It's much better. Of course, it flickers more and is darker as a consequence. That's why they. So here's the problem. They released the CX. People try the black film insertion. Oh, it's too dark, because people don't know. They don't have a clue what that is doing. So, oh, it's a dark picture, I don't like it. And people don't use it because they don't know how to get the brightness using the HDR settings. You need to be a master of HDR to use OLED Motion Pro, because otherwise, oh, it's too dark, bro, I cannot see it. You need to nail the settings. And that's what I've been trying to share here, because after you nail the settings and the picture looks bright and it looks awesome and you're not crushing blacks and everything is amazing and you see this motion clarity, this is a must. So what happened is they released the CX, people try it, oh, I don't like it, but people don't use it. And LG is like, okay, we have to make it brighter for people. And they released the C1 and they increased the window size. So it was 25% on the CX, then on the C1, they increased it to 33, 38%, I believe it's 38%. And then on the C2, they increased it one more time to 50%. So it gets brighter, it flickers less, so the reviewers sometimes, they don't even know, and they tell you, oh, the C2 BFI is better because it's brighter. No, it's brighter because the window size is bigger. And that gives you less motion clarity. And they don't know that. Man. So that's why LG keeps downgrading the black frame insertion, because reviewers don't know sometimes and people don't have a clue and it's too dark. And you need to nail the HDR settings. So LG should release more brightness. It should release more brightness. And if it's a power constraint issue, they should upgrade the power supply. And if it's a heat problem, they should add the heat sink and do whatever it takes and charge more money accordingly. I would pay for it, okay? I would pay for it. So give me a TV that has more BFI options. And when you change to BFI, the TV is releasing more brightness. Why? Because BFI is going to be less likely to burn in because the pixels are turning on and off. Okay? So it's not like all the time. It is less likely to burn in. So if that's the case, release more brightness. What's the deal with it? Also, do a gamma adjustment on the TV if it's possible. So LG needs to do something. So you use black film insertion, it looks bright, and improve the motion clarity. So you don't see that huge, you will see brightness loss for sure, but there has to be an adjustment. So it follows the EOTF more closely, okay, or as close as possible until it can. Let's say it can follow the EOTF until 200 nits. That's okay. Okay, that's perfect, or that's fine. It's not gonna be 800 or 1000 or 1500. Let's say it's 300, 400 nits. Awesome, fantastic. So yeah, I'm gonna stop the video because I can keep going. Let me know if you have any questions.